Yesterday, we were met with yet another reshuffle that saw the ousting of Suella Braverman as Home Secretary in favour of former Foreign Secretary James Cleverly. Pointed to his experience working with Home Office colleagues on illegal migration, Cleverly has said he is dedicated to halting the dangerous channel crossings as promised. Well, he would say that, wouldn't he? Let's take a listen.
It is a genuine privilege to be appointed as the Home Secretary. It is my priority, and indeed the priority of the whole government, to make sure that everybody is able to go about their lives in peace and security, driving down crime, particularly illegal migration, and tackling those evil people traffickers. We will stop the boats.
Right. OK, then. We will stop the boats. We've heard that before a few times, haven't we? So here to discuss whether the new Home Secretary will live up to his promise this time. How about the Reform Party's Rupert Lowe? Rupert, very good evening to you.
Evening, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well indeed. I'm assuming that every time anybody slides into the Home Secretary's desk, there's a speech there that says, "We will stop the boats. We are absolutely determined to stop the boats. We're determined to end this horrible human misery. It cannot go on any longer." Meanwhile, back in the real world, 600 people came over on Sunday, having not been stopped at all by anybody.
Well, let me first say, Mike, how delighted I am to join you on the vampires, your new vampire slot on TalkTV.
Listen, I love
fantastic.
it. It's definitely where I should be.
Now, well, James Cleverly, I think he's actually not a bad chap. But like I always say, I'd rather watch what the hands are doing than hear what the mouth is saying.
Yeah.
We've heard the same story from numerous people. And I think really, as I've said before, the government, with the will, the right will, can stop this illegal migration, mostly young men.
Yeah.
We don't know where they're from. We don't know what their objectives are. And it is becoming extremely destabilizing. So I hope that he will pick up the baton and actually deliver what they say they're going to deliver. But the point I have to make, though, is this reshuffling all the time, Mike, creates so much uncertainty and so much sort of dislocation within ministerial sort of ranks.
Yeah.
And if you look at the number of jobs all these people have, and you look at the qualifications they've got, I mean, Steve Barclay, agriculture and rural affairs, Victoria Atkins, health. I mean, what experience have those two got of either of those offices? So if they haven't got the experience, they're more reliant on our woke and increasingly deficient civil service, which without the knowledge to hold them to account, they won't do. And as a result, the British people will be let down again and again, which we have been recently.
Well, I said this at the start of the show, basically we deserve better. This country is in a terrible mess, and we've been put there for a variety of reasons by a variety of different people. It's hard not to blame the Tories for the last 13 years, having got us to this point. But the trouble is, James Cleverly actually was quite a good Foreign Secretary. People were saying he was getting things done, he was meeting the right people, he was making the right noises, and actually he was the best Foreign Secretary we'd had for a while. So immediately he gets that reputation. They move him. I'm told there was an awful lot of running about from side to side in corridors of the Foreign Office the other day when they found out that suddenly, he was moving and they were getting David Cameron instead, a man who has done very little but basically caused one of the biggest problems that the migrant situation faces by blowing the hell out of Libya.
Couldn't agree more, Mike. And at the end of the day, let's go back to Suella Braverman. I mean, Suella Braverman was genuinely, I think, vocationally driven to deliver for the British people.
Yeah.
She became increasingly frustrated if one reads her resignation letter, which I think is perfectly justified. And although Rishi says he's not going to answer any of the questions that she poses in there, he damn well should do. At the end of the day, if people were working for me and they wrote letters like that, I would expect to have to answer and be held to account for what's been said. And if what she said in there is true, then clearly there isn't the will to actually stop the boats, and there isn't the will to deal with all of the issues that need to be dealt with by a strong government in order to stop this illegal and legal migration, which is undermining the country. And I think increasingly Middle England can see that. Well, as for appointing David Cameron, I mean, we saw him jumping around on the top of tanks during what he called the Arab Spring, which ultimately destabilized Libya. He ultimately was responsible for that. I mean, it was a disastrous policy. Recently, he's had this Lex Greensill business where, like a lot of retired politicians, he tried to pork barrel a few pounds on the side. And obviously Lex using his offices to introduce Lex Greensill to a lot of people within government, which again has never been fully exposed. That went bankrupt. And then latterly we've got his contacts in China, and even Ian Duncan Smith is now requesting that all the conflicts of interest are put on the table and properly scrutinized. So what does it say also about other MPs, elected MPs? He won't be in the House of Commons because he's not an MP. What does it say about Rishi Sunak's other MPs within the Commons? Does it mean that they're not fit for this job? So I think it's a disastrous appointment. I mean, without mentioning David Cameron's Brexit catastrophe, where he tried to basically tell us that he was, ambivalent, and he would recommend the British people voted either way, but in the end sent out a pamphlet at the cost of £9 million that tried to weigh the whole referendum in favour of Remain. Yeah. So I think he's completely unfit for the job. I think it shows how catastrophically unsuited now the Tory party is for government, and how unfit Westminster and the civil service are now to really govern Britain properly. Well, so it's not good, is it?
It really isn't. I mean, if you read the crux of the letter for me that Suella Braverman wrote today, she's basically said that how clear she was about what he needed to do if he wasn't going to leave the ECHR. If he wanted to stop the boats from coming legally, there would have to be proper legislation, which he hasn't done. She says this: your rejection of this path that I provided you was not merely a betrayal of our agreement, but a betrayal of your promise to the nation that you would do whatever it takes to stop the boats. So she's basically accusing Rishi Sunak of betraying us as much as betraying her and the Home Office that she was running.
She's one of the few ministers, Mike, who I think were genuinely speaking common sense and trying to do the right thing. And I think clearly she reached an agreement with Rishi. He didn't, she's alleging he didn't honour that agreement, and I think he now has to answer to that. Quite apart from the fact that, she's also saying in that resignation letter that her comments on policing, which I agree with, I've said before on your show that people in Britain, the police only police those people who are happy to be policed. Yeah. And if you look at these recent Hamas marches, Hamas is clearly a terrorist organization. And at the end of the day, I think for Britain, it's extremely destabilizing to have these people marching through the streets and, demanding effectively the eradication of the Israeli state. Yeah. So, I mean, if it was a different situation, for some reason, the sort of establishment is infected by this sort of pro-Palestinian virus, which seems to justify them marching through the streets and demanding genocide, which ultimately, if you believe, you talk about from the river to the sea. Most people who chant that don't know which river it is, probably don't know which sea it is either. But at the end of the day, that's asking for either mass upheaval or mass genocide. And I think to allow those marches, I totally agree with Suella Braverman, they should not have been allowed. And I hope that they will stop them. It's extremely destabilising for all of us.
It really is. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. Let's end up, Rupert, with a new poll that's out tonight. Breaking news that the Reform Party have got themselves up to 11% for the first time, overtaking the Lib Dems and the Greens. Only 8 points now behind the Tories. I mean, polls are polls, but it's a pretty good sign for you guys.
It's great news to break through that 10%, Mike. And I think, as you say, we're only 8% now behind the Tories in that latest poll. And Richard Tice told me this evening that we've signed up over 700 new members over the last 2 days. So we are, I think, gaining momentum. I'm standing because I think the British people do deserve to have an option to vote for from outside the existing political establishment, who are genuinely real people who want to deliver real change, which is going to stabilise and help our country prosper long term. I don't think we're seeing that from the current structure of our government. And if people don't vote for reform, they really can't expect anything other than what they've seen in the recent past, which is, in my view, not good enough.
And could you foresee a moment where perhaps somebody like Suella Braverman would say, do you know what? The Conservative Party has now been lost. A lot of people are saying it. They're never going to get it back. It's always now going to be in the control of the sort of the equivalent of the civil service blob, who really don't want anything too upsetting to have to actually deal with. And their managers, their accountants, they're not interested really in the people. Could you see somebody like Suella Braverman moving over to reform?
Well, I would embrace somebody like Suella Braverman, and I'd embrace, real conservatives from the Conservative Party who want to act as a lightning rod for real change. I think we are a platform. We've got some great people, obviously Richard Tice, Ben Habib, lots of my colleagues, Anne Widdecombe, fantastic people. They are standing up for Britain, and it's not always a comfortable thing to do. There are many what I call left-wing and sort of slightly unhinged lunatics who attack us all on social media. But if these days you say a man's a man and a woman's a woman, you come in for a lot of unnecessary and unfair abuse, Mike. So yes, we're here, we're doing our best, and I hope, and it's not just Tory voters. I think we'll be saying the same thing if we see a collection of, Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner. I mean, honestly, are they really equipped? To deal with the current complexities of the finances, the politics, all of the governmental issues that need strong leadership? I mean, these people, most of them haven't governed or run anything.
No.
And all they do is swim around in the Westminster cesspit talking rubbish. And just before the reshuffle, I hear the BBC talking about, my usual, people have got their phones off. Well, frankly, Mike, who cares?
Yeah.
What we want is some people who actually make decisions that are in the long-term interests of the British people. And really, the Reform Party is the only party now that offers you the chance to vote for somebody from outside the existing political establishment. Yeah. We're dining in the last chance saloon, and the Tories are really completely reliant on the economy picking up. Well, if they think the economy is picking up in the next 12 months, they've got to be smoking something.
Well, it's not going to be picking up because of anything they've done. Rupert, got to run. Thank you very much indeed. Rupert Lowe there with his take on why the Reform Party have suddenly jumped in the ratings above the Liberals and the Lib Dems and the Green Party, and only 8 points now, possibly, behind the Tories.